Welcome back to the Hard But Worth It podcast. My name's Kirk. This is Mitch. We're with Icon Coaching, and we're at the GrowTech Fest today in Chico, California. We're sitting here with Andrew Gazdecki. Andrew, what is your role, and what role do you play in the business community these days?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me.
You betcha.
I appreciate it, and thanks for pronouncing my last name correctly. It's not often that happens. So I have a company now called Acquire.com, and what we do is we help startups get acquired.
Help start. Okay, that sounds fascinating. How do you help startups get acquired?
So we've built a marketplace similar to Zillow, where you can list your business, you can list the performance of the business. We tap into the financial metrics of the business to give buyers a good view of how the business is performing. So on the buyer side, we're solving problems of due diligence, making decisions of whether to pursue an acquisition opportunity easier. Then we also help with the legal aspect as well. So creating a letter of intent, creating an asset purchase agreement, all the way to escrow and close. And so I guess maybe a higher way of thinking of it is we're taking a manual process in terms of acquisition that is, it's a fragmented market. There's many different ways to go through an acquisition. We want to standardize that, and we want to streamline that. We want to make it easier. So when we get there, startups can be acquired faster and easier than typically the process that they go through now. And this is also from personal experience. I had an acquisition, and when I went through it, I had no idea what I was doing. I felt, like
lost. Oh, it's
like just scared. Like,
yeah.
I sold to, multi-billion-dollar private equity firm. And so when you're in these situations as a founder, there's not a lot of resources. And so I just felt the startup ecosystem as a whole needed a platform that helped facilitate acquisitions, because there's platforms for discovery to help your business get discovered. There's platforms for you to find investors, but there's nothing for the most important part of the founder's journey, which arguably is the exit of the business. And so
it is. I've sat with so many entrepreneurs who are just mystified, as you described that, and it is entirely fragmented. And I've always used language that I'm totally unhappy with. I'm like, I actually can't describe it to you in any simple way. We're just gonna have to walk into it. So.
Yeah, I mean, if you just kind of think about it from an educational standpoint, there's books on marketing, like a million.
Millions of them.
There's a book,
YouTube videos for days.
Yeah, there's 1,000 books on fundraising. There's 1,000 books on sales, but there's like 2-3 books on getting acquired. I actually wrote a book called Getting Acquired to just help educate founders on just the reality of, this is what it's really like. And then these are the problems that I think could be solved or made more efficient with software. And so that's our mission at Acquire.com.
Yeah. Well, traditionally, isn't it you're working with like an M&A partner or someone like that who's going to come alongside and guide the process? You're moving this into more of a direct online environment where the founder can maybe broker a lot of that process themselves, rather than just being at the mercy of another consultant or someone to guide them through the process. Because typically you're bringing in a consultant at some point. If you want to exit and you don't know, they're going to maybe take you through the process, take you to market. But what I found in those experiences, you're kind of at the mercy of that one firm if you choose to partner up with them, and you still feel like you're in the dark a little bit. Sounds like you're trying to flatten that out a bit and push that information or power back to the founder or the founding team of the company that might be looking to exit.
Yeah, so when you see a big market with a bunch of middlemen, it's, again, very manual. A lot of it's offline. Fragmented, low NPS scores. That's a great market to enter. And one thing about specifically M&A advisors, investment banks, business brokers, a lot of businesses don't know this, but when you go and approach them for their help, you're actually selling yourself to them. And what I mean by that is a business broker or an investment bank won't take you on as a client unless they feel they have a high likelihood of the acquisition closing, or if the enterprise value is above 50 million or something like that. And so what we're able to do with software is we're able to help businesses that will sell for 500K or a million or 5 million, businesses that are generally considered too small for traditional M&A advisors. So that's another big area that we're helping with the startup ecosystem, because when we think of startups, you know, you hear a lot about the $1 billion stories, you hear about the unicorns, you hear about basically the 0.1% of startups. But the reality is 99.9% of startups don't raise capital. And so there's a long tail of tech businesses that are really great businesses. They're profitable. They're great acquisitions for both strategic and financial buyers, but there's no market for them because they're too small, and the work needed to help them get acquired from the view of an advisor. If you just do the simple weight of, you know, should I help a $1 million acquisition or should I work on a $50 million acquisition? And so I identified that market opportunity and just thought, you know, we could probably help a lot with not just software, but also with advisory as well. So we do have advisory in our business. But that's the big opportunity, is helping, you know, startups that may not fit the typical mold for an investment bank get acquired.
I like the Zillow kind of analogy, because it is, in a sense, you're just allowing people to show up, and the buyers and the sellers get to find where that fit might be, rather than forcing it into this certain, you know, this certain level or status of performance, and maybe narrowing that market. For example, I had a friend who was looking to take his company to the market, startup, no investment. They just grew a really good business and were making really good cash. They were doing about, you know, 3 to 3.5 million, profiting about 20 to 25% on that. So they had a really good margin. They were just underdeveloped. And the problem is when they worked with an M&A, they kept getting back, hey, everything looks perfect on paper. They're just not at the numbers we need. So they were deprived of an opportunity to exit where they might have felt comfortable to exit, because they weren't able to broker them into the right class of maybe purchasers. Sounds like you're trying to open that up a bit and make those connections a little broader.
Yeah, I mean, another way to think about it is we're trying to democratize acquisitions. So regardless of your business's size or performance, obviously the business you described would sell very, very fast on acquire.com. That's like a perfect fit, like a profitable, you know, 3 million net profit. That sounds great. But the buyers for those types of businesses are few and far and in between. But what we've done at acquire.com is we've created that market. So when let's say you did take that business, worked with my team, listed it on our marketplace, you'd probably have like 100 buyers interested, signing NDAs, having real conversations with you, and then leveraging our technology to help you get all the way towards close. Just makes the whole market more efficient.
Sounds like you're lowering the cost of these transfers as well, which makes a product like this more, a company like this can actually go through the process at lower cost, so you don't need the big M&A investor house that wants to make X number of dollars. Yeah,
like as another personal anecdote, so when I was selling my first business, I actually worked with an investment bank, and I paid him $150,000 up front. We did get some offers. I was like 26, still had some gas in the tank, so I kept going. But they're expensive. And then if you go down to business brokers, you know, they'll play in kind of like the sub 20 million range, let's call it. They're looking for like 10 to 15% of the closing fee. And so we're able to dramatically lower the cost. So when a business does sell with us, the owner of the business keeps the majority of the proceeds rather than an extra 10% going to a business broker.
Yeah. What is one of your sort of pet peeves about the marketplace right now for buying and selling startups? What really bugs you about it?
I would say just number one, the lack of education in terms of telling, you know, founders, you know, really what they need to hear rather than maybe what they want to hear.
Yeah.
You know,
what do founders need to hear? Because they're listening right now. What would you tell them right up front? This is what you need to know. I don't care what you want to know.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on your goals. It depends on, if you're building a business for, financial freedom, that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people, especially if you're in, like, Acquire.com also, we're able to facilitate acquisitions in every continent. So we've facilitated acquisitions in, I believe, 75 plus countries at this point.
So what do entrepreneurs, what are the myths that they believe that gets them in trouble?
So when it comes to acquisitions, probably the biggest one is that a buyer is just going to come knock on your door one day and just give you a check.
Right.
Like Google knocks on your
Wouldn't that be
door and you have
Yeah.
to sell your business. You have to go through a process. You have to talk to buyers. And there also is a way of talking to buyers that, increases your odds of being acquired. And it's very akin to fundraising, where you run a tight process. You have, deadlines for specific parts of the acquisition. So as an example, we'll say, hey, we're going to have calls up until this point. If you don't book a briefing call, you're no longer a part of the process. And then by this date, we're going to hope for indicative offers. So that's just, we're kind of thinking this price, we need some more information, but it's them showing that they're seriously interested and they're not just wasting your time. And then asking for formal offers or a letter of intents on a certain specific day as well. And the power in doing that is you want all of your offers to come in at one time so you can negotiate against each other.
Yeah.
So another thing that a lot of founders probably don't know about is there's a great quote by Warren Buffett, which is, if you have one buyer, you have no buyer. Because if you have one buyer that just approaches you, they can drag out the acquisition process. They can watch you for a few quarters and then they can just drag you through due diligence for 6 months. And we've worked with a lot of founders who've gone through this unfortunate process, or even worse, on the private equity side, you get to the 9th inning, everything looks good. Oh, but they just found something. So now they need to reprice the business in terms of the
And you're
final.
exhausted and you're out of resources.
And at that point, you're just going to say, all right, so these are all the things that we're able to help with. And again, by educating founders and then also educating buyers on, this is how to do a transaction correctly. And also understanding that there's other buyers involved really maximizes the odds of being acquired.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder too, do you find that part of what you're navigating as you're bringing founders in who want to exit, do they tend to have to deal with, my business is worth more? I think my business is worth more than what it really is? Or do you find they typically are spot on? Like that,
No.
That's a fair question.
No. I used to do this. So I bootstrapped a SaaS business to 10 million in annual recurring revenue. I did not sell it for 10x. 10x was this number that I just had ingrained in my head as a founder. Someone told me it once, and then anything less than that was like almost like an insult.
Yeah.
And so, which I understand because you put so much blood, sweat, and tears into your business. But the reality is, people are going to value your business in very different ways than a lot of business owners realize. And so being able to prepare for that, and we have data across 1,000 plus acquisitions in terms of what your business will sell for, what to expect, how to increase your valuation, because it may not be that super high number that you hear about. Because again, when you think about just what you hear about startups and media, it's the big acquisitions.
Yeah.
It's Salesforce buying Slack for 25x revenue, or Adobe buying Figma for an insane multiple. And those are fantastic outcomes, but those are the outliers. Those are not the averages. And so what we're able to do is bring data that shows like this is what your business is worth. Kind of like Zillow has a Zestimate tool. So we're able to input a business's performance, because with software today, we can connect into their billing system, calculate their growth rate, their customer churn, net profit, revenue, and really give them a realistic valuation that, again, kind of falls along the lines of what they need to hear rather than what they want to hear. Because if you want to sell your business, it's really in your best interest to price the business in fair market value. Otherwise, buyers are just
they're
gonna
not interested.
they're
You won't
gonna
get-
take you as you're not serious about selling your business, and that gap is just too big to close.
So there's a founder out there listening right now, hopefully lots of them, who thinks they're ready to sell their business. How do they know if they're ready, and then if they are, how do they list on acquire.com?
Yeah. So when you go to sell your business, I mean, for me, there's so many different reasons that you'd want to sell your business. One is just cashing your chips, like you're ready to move on to something else. Maybe you're exhausted and you feel like this business could go farther in someone else's hands. Maybe you're going through just a personal transition. And there's endless reasons, and they're all very personal. So when you think about selling your business, think long and hard about it, because the one thing you don't want to do is go into an acquisition process 1 foot in and kind of, you want to be all in on trying to get this done, because there's a good amount of work involved in it. And then in terms of how we specifically help founders is we are able to get you in front of, 300,000 vetted buyers within 24 hours upon listing with us. Then we also have an M&A advisory team in-house that can help review letter of intents as they come in, help you with what I described as a deal schedule, really setting up an acquisition strategy. And then on top of that, what we also do is we have data on all of our buyers. So we have we have essentially the largest database of software buyers in the world, where if we have a startup that we're working with, and as an example, let's say it's a SaaS business doing $1 million a year in revenue, 500,000 in profit in the DevOps space or something like that. We have data on private equity firms, family offices, strategic buyers, even individual buyers that are interested in those businesses. So we're able to use software again to connect them more efficiently than just manually sending out emails to all these people.
And all you have to do is go to acquire.com and start the process, sounds like.
Yeah, you would just go to acquire.com, you would just top right corner.
Yep,
Should
click
say
it belongs.
join now. And then we just need a few pieces of relevant information. And then from there,
And investors can show up and do basically the same thing, or you split platform where an investor can go through acquire.com or a buyer can present themselves as well.
Yeah. So if you're looking to buy a business too, definitely we have 2,000 plus businesses listed today as of right now, and combined revenue of all those businesses is over 2 billion. So there's some good acquisition opportunities every single day on acquire.com. And then if you're a founder, every month we have tens of thousands of new buyers signing up. So if you're looking to sell your business, I would recommend it, even if you're working with an M&A advisor.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Andrew. Appreciate you spending some time with us today.